Hi, welcome to this episode of the Uncrowned Diaries. Today I want to talk to you about something that's very dear to me and probably one of the main reasons I get into pageants in the first place, and that's the Humanitarian Project. Now, I'll go back and I'll tell you a little story about myself just so you can see where my motivation comes from. When I was younger, when I was in university, one of the things I wanted to do was to enter a very exclusive program in which you did your MD and your MBA at the same time. So that's your medical degree, your doctorate, not your doctorate, but your medical degree, as well as your business, your master in business as well. So to get into this combined program, you had to do something really stellar. Because most of the people, there were only 8 individuals who entered this program at university each year. They had really impressive backgrounds. Some of them were already doctors in other parts of the world, and they were applying to this program out in McGill, where I went to university. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm gonna have to do something really stellar to really make my mark in my application. And so I decided, well, if I go into pageants, if I win this thing, I could potentially work for the United Nations, and that's very commendable. And being an ambassador to the United Nations meant it's a good tick in my resume. And with this idea in mind, I went into pageant world, and my idea was I wanted to help with important causes that mattered to me. When I got to my first pageant, which was Miss India Universe, I had a harsh reality check, because the pageant circuit over there wasn't so much focused on humanitarian work, but they were more focused on Bollywood and acting, and they were pretty much looking for the next girl who was interested in creating an acting career for themselves. And this was something that I dabbled in, I was interested in, but that wasn't my passion. That wasn't what I was really going there for. And so it became really clear that my goals that I wanted to achieve through the pageant were not going to be what I would achieve if I did win the crown. Fast forward, I didn't win the crown. I did not win Miss India that year. And I went on to have a relatively successful career in the acting world. And I did get a lot of humanitarian work under my belt, not because the pageant offered it to me, but because there were other projects that came about that I got involved in. One of the main things that happened that year, unfortunately, was the tsunami that hit Southeast Asia. And so that was something that I got involved with right away. And I don't say it was a fortunate thing, it was a very unfortunate thing, but I did have the opportunity to do that. Fast forward, I've done a lot of work in terms of my humanitarian efforts, and that's something that's very dear and important to me. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. As part of Miss Universe Canada and most of Miss Universe pageants in several countries, you need to have some kind of community involvement. Now, you don't have to go save the world, and that might not be what your contribution is. Maybe you contribute in other ways. Maybe you're creative. Maybe you're in business. Maybe you're in arts, or you're in music, or you're in finance, or I don't know, one of the many areas, medicine, dental, we don't know. So whatever it is that you're doing, that is what you were put on this earth to do. That is your purpose. But in addition to that, you are required to do some kind of community work. And typically every year, Miss Universe Canada will align themselves with one foundation, with one cause, with one charity. In previous years, actually, they've aligned themselves with several charities and assigned different girls to different ones. But in my year, in 2025, we aligned with the CMHA, which is the Canadian Mental Health Association. Now, for me specifically, there couldn't be a better alignment, because as a therapist, as someone who works in mental health, as someone who runs the foundations I do, mental health is very, very close to my heart. And so I went full force with humanitarian work. And I would do this work regardless of whether I was in the pageant or not. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. When you're going through the humanitarian portion of your competition, make sure that what you're doing is aligned. make sure that you don't just jump up and grasp onto this new set of values, because if you do that, your inauthenticity will show. And what I mean by that is, if you're someone who's never talked about a cause before, and all of a sudden you say, you know, I've been living and breathing this my entire life, people will be like, what? Since when? How come I've not heard about it? Right? So make sure it's authentic. Make sure what you're doing you really aligned with. And if it's something that's brand new to you, say you're like, okay, yeah, but this isn't what I'm doing, but now I got to do it because it's part of the humanitarian. That's fine, but be authentic about it and say so. And I think that, again, can work to your advantage. It can work to your advantage because you are someone who's saying, hey, I've not actually been involved in any of this before, but this is the amount of change, this is the amount of awareness, this is the amount of money I can raise for a cause. And I think organizers look at that in a positive way. For example, myself, because I'm already aligned with mental health way before this pageant came along, they could potentially say, well, you know, yeah, she's done a lot, it's pretty impressive, but she was kind of doing it anyway. So can she really take on a new thing? Can she really make that cause her own, right? So don't always think that someone out there, some other girl who maybe, you know, has this whole campaign together and she's like really strong and she's, you know, or she has a lot of funding. You know, there are girls who have raised a lot of funds in the past and they still have not won. So it's not just one thing on its own. It's not just creating the awareness. It's not just talking about things I'm going to do. It's not about, you know, making sure that you are the poster child for whatever that cause is. What it is understanding what the cause is and how you can make it authentically yours. That is the important part. So if it's not something that you've ever been involved with, don't claim that you were. Say that you're new to it, but say that you're going to do your best, and these are all the efforts that you're putting in towards it. And I think that will be looked at more positively by judges, by the organizing committee, and they will commend you for getting into something that's totally novel to you and still being able to do a good job to create awareness, to raise some funds, to, you know, make others in your personal circles, in your social media, your friends, your family, to kind of educate them on whatever that cause is, okay? So the point of what I'm saying in today's episode of the Uncrowned Diaries is that, again, don't feel overwhelmed if it's not something that some of the other girls have been doing and feel like, you know, they're eons ahead of you. That's not how this part is judged. What's judged is your passion. What's judged is your authenticity. What's judged is your creativity. What's judged is your ability to network and bring some awareness to the cause. So you don't have to be the biggest and the baddest in the room. Your project doesn't have to be the one that's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, although that would be fantastic. I'm not telling you not to do that. Definitely raise as much money as you can. But what I am saying is that that is not the only parameter by which this is judged. So your humanitarian project, make it your own, like you do with every other aspect of this pageant. Authenticity speaks louder than anything else, okay? Don't be afraid to show your emotions. Don't be afraid to express yourself. If it is something that you're passionate about, express yourself.